every decade was an indicator of what was to come. And there was always warnings about what the future was going to hold. Whether it was like 20, 30, 40 years ago when they said California is going to fall into the ocean, to aggressive pandemics, to a new world order coming into fruition. But there's always some kind of aggressive event that kicks off the next phase. And if you pay attention to the patterns, if you've lived long enough, like I'm 50 years old, I've lived long enough through all these different phases to see what happens at every decade, every turn of the decade, what new kickoff was going to develop another phase of this war of a specific outcome that I discovered in the conspiracy world with the Georgia Guidestones and with a new world order and with danger. And I knew in my gut how aggressive it was going to be, but I didn't know how it was going to manifest. And now you're seeing how shit is manifesting. Okay, death always has indicators from disease to climate change to then how you react to disease. And at some point, the narratives change, and what used to work, like all the different oncology and the remedies and all the surgeries, what used to work for a certain amount of time will not work the same way it used to because we're in a very different environment. And so the system puts you in a false sense of security with your families and all of your remedies and your drugs, and didn't realize that there was correlation equals causation if you accelerate the environment. So you saw what you did in reaction to something and then the outcome. But in a slower frequency environment, you had the opportunity to redirect, but now you won't have the opportunity to redirect. And that's kind of the issue is now people who are living, who might survive all this, they can see that there's always indicators to something aggressive. And if you don't listen to indicators, and if you're under the influence and you're in denial and in resistance, you won't survive. You won't survive. And there's no amount of preparation when you think about it at the last minute to survive something catastrophic. You would have to make changes as soon as you were aware that those indicators were pretty serious. And the system gave us the last 5 years to prepare for some pretty aggressive stuff because the conspiracy world was ever since 2010. Before that was picking up the pieces from 9/11. But 2010 was when the conspiracy world picked up steam. You had the Alex Jones and you had the Jesse Venturas and you had all the different politicians that were like, oh shit. And then something happened in 2019 that was a major warning shot that people are still in denial over. You had 5 years to change your ways, 5 years to stay home and stay safe, 5 years to scale down your lifestyle and belief system, 5 years to redirect. And people are still in resistance, still in denial, still like, oh, nothing's going to fucking happen to me. And now here we are at the 11th hour, 11/3/2024. And we're about halfway in the middle of what the system is realizing, as you've heard through all the conspiracy world, because you can't help but be part of it because you've seen it on the reels and people. Georgia Guidestones. They're scaling down. Fuck yeah, they're scaling down. They've been scaling down. You just haven't seen it. You just were in denial. Oh, I'm supposed to die. Okay, if you're supposed to die, then what the hell are you in resistance against? In the anti-V world, in the anti-GMO world, in the New World Order world. When you expect to pass away, and you said that to your friends and family, you expect to pass away, the system will give you what you want. They will make correlation equals causation in every single thing you do in your politics, religion, and science. And you won't get ahead of it because you've already cast spells on yourself. You called yourself garbage. Many people in the Trump world call themselves garbage. That's how fucking crazy it is. And so we're halfway in between what the system is realizing between now and Agenda 2030. It's not like one day Agenda 2030 is just going to be Agenda 2030 and, in 2030. There's a build up to that. We're in that build up right now and you can't see it. Some of you can't even fucking see it. You think Trump is going to save you. You think Kamala's going to save you. You think, I don't know. You think just denying anything is changing is going to save you. Oh, okay, well, maybe you don't really care. Well, that's what the system is banking on. That you don't give a shit about yourself. You don't give a shit about your friends and your family. You don't give a shit about anyone around you except for what you want. Completely in denial. Worry about somebody overseas, but you don't care about your immediate self. And that's how genocides and cultures have been annihilated, because they're in such denial. They're in Florida and they've seen the frequency of these hurricanes come through and the storm surges and the microbial, viruses that are plaguing people, and they're still keeping their children and themselves in Florida. It's like they're waiting to be taken out. Right there is an indicator that people make it so easy for other people to destroy them because they don't have a lot of common sense. They don't listen to indicators, they believe someone will save them, and they don't make behavioral changes. And they don't even spiritually prepare themselves for what's going on. They don't even have their kids prepared for what's going on. They're like, oh yeah, my kids are going to go to this school, and we're having a family and a baby and all this other shit. I'm like, really? You're going to have a baby now in this environment with this type of situation? And you're watching people around you. Well, maybe not, because maybe you're so homogenized. But there are groups of people who are telling you there are miscarriages and died suddenly, and these young mothers are dying. Oh, but it's because of the VHCCINES. Oh, yeah, potentially. That's a factor. But it's also your environment. It's so accelerated. You know why it's so easy for people to lose weight or gain weight so fast? Because the environment is so influential. It is speeding up your intentions. So when you're starving yourself, taking speed 'em up supplements, and you're working out so hard, you're like, oh, look, I achieved this in like 1 year. I lost 50 pounds in 1 year. Oh, look, all my muscles. Yeah, because the environment has helped you realize your intentions. In a slower frequency environment, you'd have to work harder to achieve what you've achieved so short in this amount of time in this environment. And so it is the laws of motion. We're in Newtonian physics right now. The laws of motion, what's at rest stays at rest, but not really. What's in motion stays in motion. And so when you think about it, out there, the environment is causing people's immune system not be at rest. That's why you're seeing so many people are dealing with insomnia and dealing with diagnosable conditions, dealing with, oh, I'm getting smarter. Yeah, you are for a minute. Your kids are getting smarter for a minute, but remember, they don't have enough substance in their body to support their brain, and so their body is using up so many resources, but it can't support the brain, so eventually they will be ran into the ground by their friends and their family and by the traditions. You feel sorry for these kids because these mothers don't fucking understand. They're under the influence, trying to capitalize on this energy that they have no idea is so influential. And these kids that can't handle air, food, and water, and they're on these diets, and they're vegan and vegetarian, and they want to have children, and they don't realize the world they live in. And so, every single death has so many indicators. And so that's why I had to change the way I did stuff. I couldn't keep up with my husband and his people. Fuck no, I don't have enough immune system to keep up, to be in denial and in resistance. So I had to change the way I did stuff. I had to strategize my survival. And it's very difficult to strategize your survival when you feel stuff, but other people don't, because they have more substance and they are more conditioned for pain and suffering. And I really wasn't, and I was. But this last couple weeks has been pretty aggressive. And that is an indicator. And just because you've been dealing with pain your whole life and then you're taken down for a week with pain says that something else is stronger in the environment taking you down. And so then you're going to have to change the way you do stuff. But people don't want to. They're in such fucking denial. It's crazy. And so, yeah, the system will do what it does. And so that's how easy genocides happen. Yes, there is by force. The Trail of Tears back in, when Andrew Jackson was president, and he forced those poor Native Americans off the land and into reservations. Yes, there is that. And then they had the 1940s, the World War I, World War II, 1900s, all the different wars in between, Civil War and all that. But now in this day and age, people are choosing to stay in harm's way. They're choosing to go traveling. Like, nothing's going to happen to me because they have something to promote. They have a lifestyle to sustain. And I guess if you already expect to die someday, then you're just going to, do what you do. You're not going to do it. And I get that. I'll tell you, I'm an old soul. I know that. I've been an old soul ever since I was a fucking kid, okay? I was very aware of so many things as a child. And I don't know where the hell I got it from. I couldn't tell you. And so it's very difficult to watch people who don't remember the past. Because maybe not enough shit happened to them. Maybe their parents just never gave them the opportunity to see a different world. Maybe it's, intentional ignorance. If I don't acknowledge it's there, it doesn't exist. Well, okay. But I've been watching this and it's been agonizing. Watching people harm themselves, but that's the thing. If people are not aware and they think they're invincible and they have that adolescent point of view that they're invincible, nothing's going to happen to them, then they will be caught unaware. They'll be caught traumatized, and that's the reality. Also, is that they're not spiritually prepared. They're not. What do you mean spiritually prepared? Well, there's one thing be like physically prepared. Okay, I've been physically preparing myself for so much stuff. I had to. I wasn't going to go to the doctors and get remedies. I wasn't going to get surgeries. I wasn't going to go to all the remedies and all the other shit. So I've been physically the last 8 years preparing for what's coming down the line. Then there's spiritual. Like, you're like, okay, there's no way to know how to prepare 100% for something that you don't even know what's going to happen. And so it's not like I'm going to have pallets and pallets of like water and food somewhere, like, in the side yard or anything. So I have to mentally, spiritually prepare for suffering. Because there's no way to know how much food you're going to need for who knows what's going to happen. But I am physically prepared to dodge bullets. I'm physically prepared to evacuate. I'm physically prepared to deal with death and devastation. I'm physically physically, mentally, intellectually prepared for all of that. And I've changed my ways because I experienced influential microbes going down south right after Helene. And they did bore holes into me until I had to go and release those demons and rebuild. And I'm finally rebuilt. Those holes are gone. But it was painful. And so I have been biophysically preparing for all this shit, literally. And I don't hang out with too many people. Again, I don't hang out with too many people. That's why I don't go travel different places. It's too influential and it's too unpredictable and it's fucking dangerous right now. But again, you see people are in denial. They're out there gallivanting. Like I said, they're out there gallivanting, traveling to different places, totally just dismissing the reality of what's going on. And again, it's torturous for someone who is an old soul, and I am an old soul, and I know that. And when you're around new souls who haven't learned their lessons, and you're trying to impart some kind of knowledge, you don't want them to learn the hard way because they may not even survive it, but you have no control over that. You know how fucking agonizing that is? Oh, it's very agonizing. It's very painful to watch people having to learn lessons that they may not even survive. But they're too busy hating on other people. They're too busy, doing whatever they do that makes you cringe. But you can't do anything about it. So that's why I write what I write. That's why I say what I say. That's why at this point it doesn't even matter, how politically correct I am. It's not going to fucking matter. And so, we're on the precipice. I don't even know what it's going to look like. Are you even prepared for your town? You don't know if these bombs from wherever are going to land in the Northeast. I mean, it's all going to happen all at once. It's going to be from all sides. Immunological, nuclear, biophysical, spiritual, intellectual. You're seeing the smatterings of it. You're seeing, the progressive buildup. Eventually that buildup, there's going to be a climax. And when that climax happens, that's fireworks. And it's not the nice fireworks like July 4th. These are fireworks that are deadly. And the system kept telling you, even April 8th, they told you, don't be caught out there. And even myself, you're like, oh no, Jillian, you're just a fearmonger. You said it was going to happen. It didn't happen. Yeah, you're not always going to get the 11th hour warnings. Sometimes warnings are 6 months in advance to give you time to prepare. That's the thing about people just don't die out of nowhere. There are indicators of that. What are the indicators? Sickness is an indicator that there is something lurking, that you have to respond to sickness in a different way so you don't die the next time you get exposed to climate change. Having children is an indicator that you are in deficit. That right there is an indicator that that kid may not survive and they'll die suddenly as much as the mother and the father. That's also an indicator. Wanting children is an indicator of death and destruction. Because what happened to grandma? She's freaking buried or she's suffering right now. In a nursing home. Getting everything dug out of her because she can't do it herself. So there's always indicators leading up to an aggressive event. And you see people out there like, oh, I don't feel anything. Yeah, because you're under the fucking influence. You're drugged out and you're also drunk. Off your ass. Sober when you have to be. So, yeah, you're not going to understand why people die suddenly or why are somewhere now in World War III. And you're like, oh, where the hell did this come from? Well, where the fuck were you? Oh, you're too busy in pleasure and paradise. So, yeah, we're getting a very hard lesson right now. That there are always indicators of something catastrophic, but a lot of people are in denial. And they purposely put themselves in denial. What happens if Trump doesn't get in office? That's not going to happen. I mean, I saw that yesterday when they interviewed Steve Bannon when he came out of jail. And some MSNBC correspondent asked, said, hey, well, what happens if Trump doesn't get in office? What are you going to do? He's like, oh, it's not going to happen. We're going to fucking win. We're going to make sure he wins. Oh, how the fuck are you going to know? There's no way for you to know that 100%. But that's the thing. People don't prepare for the alternative situation. They have so much hopes that someone's going to save them, whether it's Jesus, Trump, or their drugs. What happens when the drugs don't work? What happens when Trump doesn't get in office? What happens if Jesus was just a man, he wasn't anything special? Deer in headlights. Deer in fucking headlights. That's how the system has, how easy it is for the system to destroy people who have not developed an alternative way to handle changing situations. And that's a sad testament to a lot of humans out there. They cannot prepare for another storyline. They can't even think of another storyline. And it's crazy to watch how much the eyes glaze over. Just like Steve Bannon, when you watch that Forbes interview, when he got out of jail. And you just wonder, is he part of this or what? I mean, is he just a representation of most humans out there? Oh no, we're going to win no matter what. We're going to win. There's no fucking way to know. There's no fucking way to know. Good luck, everyone. Bye.